So now we're going to talk about the threat of new entrants. So first of all, think about where new entrants come from. Well, they can be from startups, from entrepreneurs. But they could also be the result of diversification or internationalization of incumbents. Okay? So when you think about startups, okay, what's one of the greatest threats to the post office? Well, companies like UPS and FedEx, which were originally startups, and they have really taken away a lot of the post office's business. Diversification. Think about Nokia. They were the premier smartphone provider in the world. But then came Apple. Okay? The iPhone represented a diversification effort by Apple, and it really pretty much destroyed Nokia. So that was Apple was a new entrant into the smartphone market. Or internationalization of incumbents. American automobile manufacturers more or less dominated the American market until Japanese firms began distributing and selling their vehicles to the U.S. market. Now there's some different attraction and deterrence factors for new entrants entering a market. Well, first of all, what's the overall industry attractiveness? That's important, which we've talked about a little bit already based on industry structure. Are the entry barriers significant? Okay. If there's very high and very difficult to overcome entry barriers, whether that's capital, technological, or know-how barriers, then new entrants may be less likely to enter that given firm or industry. Furthermore, there may be a risk of retaliation by established firms. So for example, if Walmart's allegedly notorious for this, you may have a new entrant coming into the retail grocery scene, and Walmart will cut their cost of production so low that it's actually, will cut the price of their products below the cost of production in order to force out that new entrant. Alternatively, they could say, another company could say, you know what, this is a new entrant to the market, but they stole our technology, they stole our ideas, so we're going to sue them. Okay, that's retaliation by established firms. Of course, there's other kinds of entry barriers that are important to take into consideration. There may be economies of scale or the experience effect, and these both kind of go hand in hand. An economy of scale means that the more of you have a high fixed cost, and the more of a given product that you produce, the cheaper it is for you to produce each marginal unit. So for example, think of a factory, and you want to make nails in the factory. Let's say your factory costs $1 million to build. Well, the cost of that first nail is $1 million plus the cost of that first nail. Right? You have the materials. The cost of the second nail is $500,000 for each nail plus the cost of the nail. The cost of the 10th nail is $100,000 plus the cost of each additional nail. Okay? So it's in your interest to produce as many nails as possible so that you can get to the point of the cost of building the factory becomes negligible. There's also the experience effect, which is the same thing. You've got new employees doing a certain task, they're going to make a lot of rookie mistakes, and these rookie mistakes are costly. But of course, there comes a point they don't make rookie mistakes anymore, and then they wind up getting better at performing a service or producing a given product. They get better at it, more proficient, faster. Okay? So each additional hour of work produces more labor. That's the experience effect. Another entry barrier, as I mentioned in a previous module, or a previous couple videos, is high capital requirements. If it's very expensive to enter a given industry, then that may deter new entrants. If it's difficult to access channels of distribution, for example, if you're thinking about, I don't know, becoming an ice cream maker, if none of the grocery stores want to sell your ice cream, that might deter you from entering that industry. Okay. Looking at proprietary technologies. So let's say you want to start the next Uber. Well, that's going to be hard because Uber owns the copyrights on all of that technology. So it'd be very hard for you to be the next Uber because they have their own proprietary technology. Again, looking at switching costs. Yes, you may have the best, cheapest product out there, but if it's going to be difficult for people to switch from the thing that they're already doing, the product or service they're already using, to your product or service, then that's going to be a significant entry barrier for you as a new entrant. And there may be restrictive rules and regulations. There may be governmental regulations like safety requirements. You may have to worry about filing patents, which can be a long and difficult process. These are all good examples of entry barriers. So if it's very easy to get into an industry, then the threat of new entrants would be very high, and that might actually discourage you from going into that industry. Alternatively, if that doesn't scare you, you may wish to go into that industry hoping that you'll be better than all those other entrants. If the threat of new entrants is low because of the high entry barriers, but you can easily overcome those entry barriers for whatever reason, then it may be advisable for you to go into that industry because you don't have to worry about new entrants being able to overcome those entry barriers as easily as you have. Well, great. It looks like we're going to talk about the threat of substitutes. Looking forward to seeing you then.